potential energy. Kinetic energy or kinetic energy, this is moving objectives or mass. Best examples for this kinetic energy, mechanical energy and electrical energy. When we talk about the potential energy, it is the form of that store potential that can be put for the future use. Example, nuclear energy, chemical energy, etc. And chemical energy, electrical energy also there. When we talk about chemical energy, it is the energy which is stores in the bonds, chemical compounds, and this chemical energy particularly related to the chemical reaction in the form of through the heat. We use this type of chemical energy particularly for fuel and wood, coal and burning them. So electrical energy, which is carried out moving electronics, particularly you know lightning and other forms of energy when we convert it to the electrical also. So for example, power plants that converted into the chemical energy and sometimes store fuel like coal into the electrical and various channels in the form of energy. So electrical energy, that energy is in the energy that carried out by moving elections, particularly that electricals, you know it is most one of the common useful form of the energy. For example, it is lightning in the form of energy that converted into the electrical energy, power plant that converted into the chemical energy. Mechanical energy also there, thermal energy is there. Thermal energy, one of the important energy source for developing countries, particularly in Indian case. Because this energy, subsistence or the system that has related to the temperature, that energy of moving, vibrating, molecules, particularly we use the solar radiation to cook food. This is thermal energy. Nuclear energy also there. This nuclear energy that is trapped inside for each atom. Nuclear energy particularly that can be produced in the form of fusion, and this fusion particularly the process is widely used for this method, that is nuclear energy. Gravitational energy also there. This energy is particularly held by the object in the gravitational field. Examples which includes water flowing down and waterfall. What are the sources of this energy? Energy sources in the form of fuel that may be used in modern world, particularly for heating generation of electricity, for the other form of electricity conversion process. The sources of energy that can be divided into two subgroups. Sources of energy we can categorize it into two groups. One is primary sources of energy and the other one is secondary sources of energy. Primary sources and secondary sources of energy. So here the primary sources of energy, which are those sources which can be used for the production of different forms of energy. They may be classified. Primary energy can be classified into fossil fuel, which may be broken into the coal, petroleum, natural gas. And also, uh, this can be from the wood, water, heat, which come from the interior of the earth, uh, particularly geothermal here, we say. Radiation from the sun and uranium, thorium, which all are used, generation of nuclear power and tide also, wind and tide also. So that is, the related to the primary sources. When we talking about the secondary sources of energy, which is generated by using of, primary source of energy, the secondary sources of energy, particularly again classified into synthetic sources of energy, that is, gas, oil produced, coal, shale, waste of material, electricity, which can be, produced in the form of, fossil fuel, and nuclear power, hydropower, and solar power. This is, secondary energy source. So here, the hydropower, which can be, carried out from the decomposition of water and required the use of fossil fuel, nuclear power, and solar power. Petroleum products also there, which do not, hydro products of, petroleum, which are obtained by, refining the process, and they are gasoline, jet fuel, and fuel oils, petrochemicals, and road oil, liquefied, gases. These are the, secondary sources. So here, when we are talking about the renewable energy sources in India, or what are the renewable sources? Renewable sources is the energy that is produced from the, natural process, particularly, you know, uh, from the, sunlight, water, wind, and geothermal heat, biomass. These all are the, renewable sources. Particularly, these renewable energy sources spread over a wide geographical area in comparison to the conventional energy sources, which are often, concentrated to the limited number of countries like, oil, gas. Particularly, this we observe in Middle East countries, and also, the use of, renewable energy sources, that energy is generating, which is, reducing, less pollution, or CO2 emission not releasing. So it is significantly effect on economic benefits, particularly in terms of energy users. Because these renewable energy sources protecting the environment, protecting the environment. So here, the types of renewable energy sources, when we, observe solar energy, solar energy, this, radiant light, heat energy from the sunlight, that, with the use of solar collectors. The solar collectors, which are, various types of such photovoltaic, concentrator of, photovoltaic and solar heating, concentrated to the solar power. So here, this type of, collection of solar energy then used to provide, light, heat, and, different other forms of the electricity. So here, along with this solar energy, wind power also there. Along with solar, wind power also there. We are talking about the sources of renewable energy. One is solar energy, and the second one is wind source or wind energy. This wind energy we get from the wind, that is known as wind energy. For this, wind falls, particularly, they use hundreds of years to pump out of the water from the ground. We use large tall wind, turbines that allow winds to generate the electricity, particularly. So natural airflow of the surface of the earth that is used to run the wind turbines. Most of the preferred locations, these wind turbines, particularly installed with the different areas, such as strong and that flow can be offshore and at sites which are light or high altitude. Along with the wind energy, the hydroelectricity also there. This is also one of the renewable sources of the energy. According to the statistics, hydroelectricity that generated around 16% of the global energy sources, that is constituted about the 70% of the all the renewable electricity. So this energy is the another alternative sources of energy that is generated by construction of dams and reservoirs, in the flowing of water, kinetic energy, as I said, flowing water that is used to run the turbines which are, generate the electricity, that generate the electricity. As we can, observe the tidal power also, which converted it into energy, particularly, tides and waves of the power that automatically captures the energy from the, from the surface and the ocean waves of the for power generation that are two forms of the hydro power and a huge potential for the electricity of for the generation. Along with the solar energy, wind power energy, and hydropower energy, thermal energy also there. That is geothermal energy. So it is the energy that is generated from the thermal energy which is stored in the earth. The heat energy, that captures the sources of such hot, springs or volcanoes. This heat directly used to the industries for heating the water and other purposes. Bioenergy, this type of energy, derived from the biomass, which is type of biological material derived from the living organisms and plant derived materials which are called as biomass, bioenergy. So this biomass can be directly used in various combustion to produce the heat, and indirectly it can be used to convert the biofuels. Biomass can be converted to the usable forms of the energy, such as transportation, fuel like biogas and methane gas. Coming to the non-renewable energy sources, when we talk about these non-renewable sources, which does not renew or renew the itself at a sufficient rate of sustainable economic extraction of meaningful human time framework. Non-renewable sources which we cannot reproduce or reuse. When we use it, only we have to use only one time. So the renewable, non-renewable energy, particularly It comes from the fossil fuel, such as crude oil, natural gas, coal, uranium. So here the fossil fuel are mainly made up with carbon emission, as we know that. Whenever we are using non-renewable sources, we have to use only one time. The resources are becomes decrease. So here it is believed ఈ ఫోన్ మాట్లాడు బాగు మాట్లాడు క్లాస్ అయిపోయినాక వస్తాం. So here it is believed that fossil fuel were formed over the 300 million years when the earth was lot of different landscape. Particularly when we are talking about the non-renewable energy, it is mainly the fossil fuel. It is mainly the fossil fuel. Apart from the fossil fuel, nuclear fuels and non-renewable sources. The fossil fuels are the formed by remaining animals and plants. So these non-renewable sources, when we talk about nuclear fuels, the use of nuclear technology that relying the fission that requires naturally accretion of radiation material as a fuel. Uranium, the most common fission fuel at present, the ground, particularly relatively, low concentrations and, mined around 19 countries. So the nuclear power that provides 6% of the total energy that comes, 13 to 14% of the world electricity that is, contributing this from the nuclear power. So what are the advantages of non-renewable energy? These non-renewable energy sources, it is more affordable. For instance, diesel and oil, it is easily accessible and more compatible. The non-renewable source of energy is easy to store. Particularly, there are certain disadvantages also there from these non-renewable sources. These non-renewable sources cannot be replaced on their energy sources which are used up. We cannot use, no, or we cannot replace when we use, for example, coal. Once we use coal, that, we cannot replace it. So that we cannot. So, matlab. So renewable energy that cannot be replaced once the, their energy sources which are used, up. So by the products, non-renewable energy that, that causes environmental damages, it also increases the, green gas or greenhouse gases. What does it mean? It increases the, CO2 emissions. It increases the CO2 emissions. So it is, adversely affecting the from these non-renewable sources. Whenever we are using more and more these non-renewable sources, which are we cannot replaced. At the same time, on the other side, it is adversely affecting the environment because these non-renewable sources from the fossil fuel or CO2 emission, okay, from the oil, which are releasing CO2 emission directly or indirectly, it is spoiling the environment, right? These are the disadvantages. So conventional and non-conventional sources of energy. When we talk about the conventional and non-conventional energy sources, conventional sources of energy, firewood, straw, dried, dung, coal, crude oil, natural gas, thermal energy, hydropower, which all are, comes under the conventional energy sources. Non-conventional energy sources, the solar energy, wind energy, tidal, geothermal energy, nuclear energy, bioenergy, and which all are non-conventional energy sources. No, solar energy, non-conventional. We can say that uh, renewable sources. This all about the conventional and non-conventional sources of energy. So when we are talking about the particularly the factors that determining the demand and supply of energy, demand and supply of energy. So the what are the factors determining demand and supply of energy, where it is required more when we look at to the in this way, planning for future availability of energy resources to meet higher level of demand that requires the knowledge of special characteristics, demand for and supply of energy, which are more the future availability when we are planning the future availability of resources to meet high level of demand which requires the knowledge of you know particularly demand for the supply. In a particular, when we understanding the interactions of demand and supply, it becomes crucial in adapting the policies and avoid the future shortages. Dealing with the interactions of demand for the supply of energy sources, which requires identification of their use linkages. Class eight. So furthermore, the planning process that aiming to the bridge the gap between demand and supply that must be operated within the context of optimization of social objective function. So when we are talking about the demand for energy sources, demand for energy sources. So here the demand for energy that should be differentiate between direct demand and derived demand. The demand side, where we are looking to the, it should be differentiated between direct demand and derived demand. What is direct demand? It is final demand, which is the demand for the energy, which are resources for their final products. And the other one, the derived demand, which are indirect demand. Derived demand is the indirect demand, which is the demand for the a factor of production energy, which is usually seen in an input of production transformation of the process, which results in the number of final goods. So here there are different determinants to quantify the energy demanded that can be divided into economical and technological institutional determinants. There are three kinds of determinants are there, particularly for for energy demand. One is you know technological, another one is economic, and the third one is institutional demand. So when we are talking about the economic determinants, the price or money, taste and preferences. When we talk about the price, among the economic determinants, price of the energy sources under consideration, which is the most important to determine the quantity which is demanded by the level of demand curves. That is influence. And the other one is money income also influencing prices of related other sources of energy, taste and preferences of individuals. So economic determinants. Coming to the technological determinants, among the technological determinants, it is relative efficiency of utilization of resources, particularly. Okay. So here another one is institutional determinants. Among the institutional determinants, the environment can be control imposed on CO2 emissions, which is related to institutional determinants. So demand for energy sources. When we look into this, demand for energy sources, particularly it arises from the various uses because to satisfy various wants. The demand for resources, the energy, particularly energy sources are resources which are arising from the various sources to satisfy the various wants. This use can be identified in terms of general categorical demand, residual, commercial and industrial purpose, agriculture purpose they are using, okay, agriculture purpose, and transportation, electric utilities, which can, further broken down into their sub demand and sub, listed. So particularly when we are talking about the lightening, space heating, water heating, cooking, refrigeration, cool, the what we can say that air conditions, television, and food processing or food freezing, cloth drying, electricity generation, which all are direct heat and feedback, all the transportation that is related to the fuel, electricity utilization, and others. So the process where taken place, particularly the direct heat or feedstock, the air and all the transport related to the fuel and electricity, which utilizes the each and every uses of its own demand, which is scheduled for the energy. Every aspect there is a huge demand. They are going to be used electricity. There is a huge demand for the energy. So these are the sources. Coming to the uh, demand for primary sources of energy, the demand for primary sources of energy, particularly, that pointed out that, demand and sub-demands, demand and sub-demands, particularly that relates to the sources of energy, that instead of, all the using of energy, the non-renewable uses, primary sources of energy that, allow almost, 6% of the total usage of the energy. For example, when we are talking about the, you know, non-energy uses or non-renewable energy uses, fuel and loops and greaves, asphalt and road oil, this, feedstock, particularly, manufacturing of chemicals, which are utilizing petroleum and coal natural gases. So coming to the factors, what are the factors that are affecting overall demand for the energy sources? So here, the factors that are affecting particularly overall demand for energy sources, which are depending on the needs and aspirations of individuals. There are, various factors are there to identify which are influencing the demand for energy, which are influencing the demand for energy. So here, one of the important factor that is number, population number. Whenever there is an increase in the population, as we know that there is a huge demand for the energy sources, right? So there is a positive association between energy use and population. Higher the population, higher the energy use. Technology also there. Technology are required, energy, degree of industrialization for industries also required energy, age distribution, per capita income, and cultural factors. These factors are affecting the overall demand for energy of the country. So supply of energy sources. What are the supplies are there? When we talk about the concept of supply, the supply schedule, which is defined the relationship between market prices and amount, particularly amounts of commodity that producers are willing to supply. These prices are alternative possible to available for a moment of time. So that is more important. Physical supply of energy sources. We are talking about the supply of energy sources. Physical supply of energy sources or resources. It refers to the physical existence of energy sources, the economic supply of energy. Particularly, it can be defined the proportion of the physical supply of man uses. The economic supply of energy, as I said, it defined as the portion of the physical supply of man uses. That is economic supply of energy. Physical supply of energy that is related to the existence of energy resources, existence of energy resources, and the when we talk about the economic supply of energy, that is physical supply of man usages. That is economic supply of energy. What about the potential supply? The actual economic supply and physical supply that can be called as potential supply. The economic supply of energy, the resources are response to prevailing the prices that reflecting particularly scarcity or abundant. Scarcity or abundant. Particularly, the supply can be expanded or contracted. It depends on the economic, institutional, and technological setting. The place and ultimate sense, it is limited only the total physical availability of the energy. When we talk about this, the economic supply of energy resources are increased when when we observe that. So the new technology for discovery, new technologies are required, more efficient utilization, present sources of energy, institutional arrangements using those sources of energy that are renewable. By foreign trade policies also influencing. Coming to the primary energy in the process of economic development. Primary energy in the process of economic development. Say, we have seen forms of energy, types of energy resources, types of energy sources, determinants of the factors, particularly demand and supply of energy. So when we are looking to the primary energy in the process of economic development, here when we look at to the in this point of view, it is found that energy is termed as blood of an economy because there are it is positive impacting on the economic growth or development. That is the reason why we can say that it is more important energy for influencing the economic development. So modern agriculture, when we observe, it cannot be imagined that today agriculture without energy or electricity, irrigation plays an important role. We are talking about agriculture. So agriculture without energy or electricity, there is no importance for the agriculture productivity. In all the non-canal irrigation facilities like wells and bores, etc., we can see the electricity which is pumping and supplying of water crops, right? So here the modern tools of agriculture like plowing tractors, sowing machines and harvesters, they can either with the help of the fuel or with the help of the electricity. So it is more important for the agriculture sector. Transportation of agriculture inputs and production, which are dependent on fuel energy, right? So the entire process of, particularly in the modern agriculture sector, energy is more important. This modern agriculture sector is more depending on the energy sources. So here the industrial sector, when we look into the industrial sector, unlike the traditional, industries like cottage and industry, that, modern industries particularly, the origin is the energy. Without energy, no wheel can be run, and without wheel, no machine runs. Without machine, no production, and modern industries are not there. So industrial sectors, if they want to survive, it must be energy has to contribute more. So the labor is also primary factor of production, particularly in modern industries. Most of the laborers are used to run to machines only, right? So along with agriculture sector, industrial sector, and the other sector is service sector. So here in the service sector, particularly every shape of no every sphere of services, particularly it is depending on the energy. Every service sector depending on the energy only. So the entire modern transportation or transport industry that runs with fuel or with electricity. The entire transportation facilities or it runs with the help of the fuel or electricity. Here, when we observe, the banking also comes under the service sector. Insurance also comes under the service sector. Trade and information communication also related to the service sector. So these sectors almost dependent on the electrical gadgets. So which are operated with the help of the electricity only. Even modern education is digitalized, and modern health facilities are depended on equipments which run with electricity. Transforming the society with the horizon of smartphone, transforming the traditional societies with modern outlook, with skill oriented, because it is easy and which plays an important role this transforming the society. As we know, smartphone transforming the traditional societies to the modern look, skill oriented, that became easy to and important. It is, improving the productivity and inclusive development with the help of transforming the society. Economic growth. What is that? Economic growth. So with the above analysis, we certainly understand that though it is not directly in all cases, particularly in modern economic activities, energy is playing, prominent or, vital role to speed up the, increase production or productivity of, goods and services. So it leads to, positive impacting on the economic growth. When we look at the limitations of energy use in economic development process, as I said, primary energy is uh, it is in the economic development process. It accepted in general primary energy that leads to economic development. It is, in general. But there are some, studies that are related to when we observe, there is no relationship, there is no correlation between economic growth and energy use in some areas. There are, some empirical evidence that have proven that instead of, when we observe United States economy, where there are, increase in production of goods and services for a certain period of time, that is with compared with growth, but with constant use of energy. So another limitation, there are particularly the theories which are shown energy neither substitute for the capital or substitute for the innovation. It plays a vital role in increasing the productivity. It is drawn that energy just to complement with capital innovation. There is a wide criticism from environmentalists because the pollution aspects of modern ways of producing goods and services with the help of energy, which is undermining the availability of resources. Future generation can be causing for healthy life, particularly at present generation. Here we have so far we have discussed, we have seen the concept of energy, various forms of energy sources, types of energy, and also we have seen determinants of energy, supply of energy. The primary energy sources with respect to economic development, types of energy, we came to know that there are renewable and non-renewable sources are there. What is renewable sources? Renewable sources which we can use, we can reuse. But non-renewable sources, when we use, we cannot replace or we cannot reuse. So that is non-renewable sources. And also these non-renewable sources, most of the developing countries are depending on non-renewable sources, particularly fossil fuel and coal. So these non-renewable sources, from these non-renewable sources, CO2 emission is increasing. It may be positive impacting on economic growth with the help of non-renewable sources. But perhaps when we observe, there is a adversely affecting the environment because these non-renewable sources are releasing the CO2 emission that is polluting the entire the environment. So it is adversely affecting through the non-renewable sources. So here we also know that we came to know that the factors that determining the demand for and economic, technological, institutional factors that are going to be influenced. Among the economic factors, price is the most important factor that determining the demand of the our energy. As we know that there are the supply side, we have seen economic and physical potential supply and demand determinants of supply. In the relationship between economic development, as we saw that the energy is playing its role in agriculture and industry services and that human society that can be skilled and modern look. We also mentioned the limitations of energy in economic growth process. This is we have so far we have discussed. And when we uh, look into the renewable and non-renewable, as I said, fossil fuel are the formerly it is remains the animals and plants. The non-renewable sources of energy, particularly, it comes from the fossil fuel and coal and crude oil, natural gas and uranium. It is releasing the CO2 emission. And when we observe non-conventional energy or renewable energy, which is solar, wind energy, tidal, geothermal energy, nuclear energy, and bioenergy, which all are non-conventional energy sources. So economic development of demand for energy sources, which are price among economic determinants, price of the energy source. When we talk about the it is more important and determinants of quantity demanded, the level of demand, and also the money income, prices of related sources, and taste and preferences of the individuals, which all are going to be influencing the determinants of the demand for energy sources. Coming to the energy transmission society within the horizon of the smartphone, which again depends on the energy or transforming the traditional societies with modern look, and we can observe the skill oriented, because it is easy to which play an important role in improving the productivity and inclusive development. So here particularly we have seen the concept of energy and the sources of energy, renewable and non-renewable sources. What are the factors that are determining? We have seen, and also other factors we have seen. So there is a positive association, particularly between the energy use and economic development. Economic development uh, that more important. So now we particularly we are going to see the another important concept, which is uh, the information and communication technology. Information and technology, communication and technology. What are the objectives? ICT, information and what are the components of ICT system? The role of ICT in economic development, problems of and challenges, the role of transportation in economic development, and the other factors also influencing. See, when we talk about the concept of information, ICT, so here the United Nations that are considerable one of the sustainable development goals to signify the increase in the access of information and communication technology. Information and communication technology, which is one of the important sustainable goals according to United Nations. It provided around there are 17 goals are there. It is one of the important goal that you know uh, information and communication technology is more important, because it provides to provide universal and affordable access, particularly to internet and at least developed countries by 2020. So what is ICT? Information, communication and technology. There are two options that we know, particularly an ICT that could be stands for information and communication technology, information communication and technology. This might be appear suitable distincts, but there is a significant difference between the meaning. The second that must be broader than the first one. Information, communication, and technology. So most of the people that tell particularly ICT is shortening the information and communication technology. So this information and communication technology, when we are observed, they cannot be independently, they cannot exist. In a shorter information and communication technology to just technology, we can observe. So ICT that stands for information, communication, and information technology. What is information? The data, proper electronic format we require. Communication, it may be in a person or electronically. Electronic communication, writing, the voice, and telecommunication and broadcasting. So the information technology IT, which includes software and hardware electronics, that is related to information technology. The communication technology that includes protocols, softwares, and hardware. You know, plumbing the analogy when we are talking about the water system, ICT, and storage of tanks, information technology, and hard drive and process that content of management system. When we are talking about the pipes, communication technology, and fiber optic cables, internet, protocols, which gone, right. So the pipes, particularly the communication technology, fiber and optic cables, that internet protocol, that emails and client. We also say that